2 times, a woman in Loveland asked a judge to make her ex-boyfriend give up his guns and stay away from her home. Javier Acevedo was still allowed to have his guns last week when police say he killed his ex and her 16-year-old daughter.
They were not the only ones worried for their safety. 9 News reporter Kelly Rinke looks at why Acevedo was still able to keep his guns.
Lindsay Dom tried multiple times to keep her ex-boyfriend Javier Acevedo away before police say he shot and killed her and her 16-year-old daughter Meadow Sinner at this house last week. In September 2021, Lindsay requested a protection order claiming Javier was violent towards her and her kids. She filed a second request just over a month ago because she said Javier threatened to kill her. Then weeks later, police say he took her life.
It is troublesome that there were 2 separate requests to get protection order, and apparently neither of them ever got to the permanent protection order stage.
9 News legal expert Scott Robinson says only a permanent protection order would show up on a background check if Javier tried to buy a gun. The DA's office in Larimer County is not aware of any court order banning Javier from having a gun that day.
Most likely the initial protective order was granted as a temporary protective order, and then either the person seeking the protective order couldn't get the defendant served, the respondent served, or they decided not to go forward with the permanent orders hearing.
Lindsay wasn't the only mom trying to protect her children from Javier. Last year, a judge in Denver issued a temporary protection order against Javier too. Records show he wasn't allowed to have guns while that order was in place, but it only lasted for a few weeks.
If all you have is a piece of paper and it either hasn't been made permanent or that individual chose not to surrender their firearm, it isn't going to protect the person who needed protection the most.
A judge in Larimer County eventually filed a mandatory protection order a few months before the murders because Javier had been accused of sexually assaulting a minor. Court documents show no one checked a box saying he should lose his guns. Now, given the nature of that crime, Scott Robinson thinks that box should have been checked. Loveland police say Javier legally purchased the gun he fired last week in March of 2021 before any of these protection order requests were filed by the 2 women. But again, it does not appear there was any court order making it illegal for him to have a gun at the time of the murders.
It's just heartbreaking, Kelly, to think that it could have been something as simple as checking that box. I mean, obviously, then he would have needed to surrender the weapons, but it could have been put in process.
Yeah, and again, it's asking this person to surrender the weapons, so who knows if that could have happened as well, is what Scott Robinson is saying. Loveland police also told me today that they believe he should not have had guns that day. So I think a lot of people are going to be looking back at that court record.
Kelly Rinke, thank you very much. On the day that Lindsay Dom and Meadow Sinner were killed, the 16-year-old had just finished her internship with the Colorado Youth Congress. The founder of the organization says Meadow was a natural leader. She was working through CYC to create more mental health support programs in schools.
I know Meadow cared about domestic violence. I know Meadow cared about mental health and gun safety. She wanted everybody to live happy, full, healthy lives, and she knew that these things got in the way. And it was so clear when you talked to her that she was a powerful force. And she had this whole life ahead of her of leadership, of bringing joy and love to her community. And that's no longer a possibility.
Meadow had 4 siblings. Their grandmother is now taking care of them. We have information on how Colorado Youth Congress is working to support the family in this article on 9news.com.
The man accused of hitting and killing a person and then taking off is in jail tonight. Denver police say Taylor Lindsay crashed into another car just after midnight on Saturday near 40th and Pena. 1 person in that other car died and several others were hurt. That case is one of at least 3 deadly hit-and-run crashes in Denver over the last 10 days. In the other 2, 1 person was walking down the street, another was riding a scooter. 9 News reporter Mark Salinger shows us it's a deadly stretch of days in a year that's seen an increase in bad crashes. A warning, this story does include video of one of those deadly crashes.
At the intersection of 54th and Federal, a new memorial marks yet another life lost.
He is going to be remembered forever and ever. He is a great man and always will be. And
Brett Manzi's son, Jonathan Fanter, was hit and killed early Sunday morning as he rode his scooter. The pickup truck hit the 26-year-old so hard it cracked his helmet. The truck didn't stop to try and help him.
It's very heartbreaking. It's beyond heartbreaking. I can't even explain what I want to do to this person.
Greg isn't the only person in Denver feeling the unimaginable pain as he searches for answers. On Sheridan, near First Avenue, Denver police say 4 separate cars ran over a pedestrian who had been hit on the evening of July 23rd. Not a single one stopped to help. Police released this video in hopes someone would recognize the cars involved.
Traffic fatalities in general are going in the wrong direction, and hit and runs, unfortunately, are a substantial portion of those.
Jill Locantori heads the Denver Streets Partnership, advocating for safer streets. She says more needs to be done to make walking safer for pedestrians and everyone.
We all lose, when our traffic system is unsafe, and it's traumatic for everybody that's involved. Just because somebody leaves the scene of a crash doesn't necessarily mean that they weren't also traumatized by that event.
Now families wait for answers.
We ask for your help.
At far too many intersections across the city. In Denver, I'm Mark Salinger, 9 News.
Denver police and Colorado State Patrol are asking the public for help in finding the people suspected of causing those crashes. There's more information about the cars involved on our website, 9news.com.
Today, voters in Kansas became the first in the country to cast ballots on abortion since the Supreme Court decision overturning Roe v. Wade. NBC News projects that voters in Kansas, deep red Kansas, have overwhelmingly backed preserving abortion rights in their state constitution. If today's ballot measure had passed, the Kansas State Legislature would have had an opportunity to change abortion access, limiting or even banning it. That would have had an impact on abortion providers here in Colorado, who are already seeing a surge from out of state. Advocates say half of the calls inquiring about care in Colorado are coming from other states. The Republican candidate for the Senate in Colorado, Joe O'Dea, says that he would break with his party to codify Roe v. Wade. But now that there's a bipartisan bill actually introduced in the U.S. Senate to establish federal abortion rights, O'Dea's team tells 9 News he wants more restrictions before he would support that. The bill would allow states to put restrictions on post-viability abortions, but no outright bans. The bill would also protect access to contraception. O'Dea's spokesperson said the bill was a good start, but said that O'Dea would want restrictions on abortion funding and a parental notification clause added before he would support the bill.
Tonight, the candidates for Attorney General went head-to-head in their first debate. Democratic Attorney General Phil Weiser is running against Republican District Attorney John Kellner. The two shared their views on a variety of topics, including police force, the opioid epidemic, and abortion.
If any county, as one has already threatened, tries to pass an ordinance prohibiting access to abortion care, I've told any county I will take them on in court to enforce this law.
And as somebody who supports the Dobbs decision returning this back to the states to make a decision, it's also important to recognize that Colorado, through its legislature, has spoken on the issue. And as the Attorney General, I can commit to you in much the same way that Mr. Weiser did, that I will defend the law.
Weiser and Kellner both ran unopposed in their respective primaries. Weiser was elected to his first 4-year term as AG in 2018. Kellner was elected district attorney for the 18th Judicial District in 2020. It's a program designed to give Latino entrepreneurs a big lift. It's the first of its kind in the state to focus on Latino-run businesses that have moved beyond that startup stage. 9 News reporter Luis De Leon explains how it works.
Right now, a little bit slow because I am
starting a business.
One I'm hiring
can take a lot of juggling.
I got my kids' stickers all over the computer, so just to let you know about that.
The right connections can make the difference for entrepreneurs like Hamilton Bulldog.
These are some of the openings we have.
He's the founder of Content Machine, which connects freelancers to bigger companies who need help with advertising and content creation.
It's really about getting like the highest quality talent connected to like the brands and startups.
He says he already has a couple hundred users, but he's getting more help.
Yes, it's about business, but it's about community also.
From a program started by the Latino Leadership Institute.
So we have 11 entrepreneurs in the program. 9 identify as Latino, 2 identify as BIPOC.
That program that Chief Strategy Officer Harry Hollins helped start is the Latino Entrepreneur Access Program. It takes Latino entrepreneurs like Hamilton and provides them free mentoring and coaching from CEOs to take their business to the next level.
We're constantly looking at opportunity gaps and where Latinos are significantly underrepresented.
Just 6% of the nation's businesses are Latino-owned. 11.1% of small businesses in Colorado are Hispanic-owned. Hollins and Bulldog hope the program kicks off a domino effect.
We know that diverse founders hire diverse workforces. That diverse workforce takes their paycheck back into their communities. That community starts to become a much greater and powerful tax base. And from that, then it becomes, the domino effect is even beyond entrepreneurship. Then communities can start to address other inequities that they deal with in their community.
All 11 entrepreneurs in this program are based here in Colorado. This first phase goes on for a year. Kim, another goal with this is to create what's called generational wealth, which advocates have told us in the past is one of the barriers to home ownership in the state that impacts communities of color especially.
No doubt. And to have those mentors guide you as you've already got things going, it's huge.
Part of the piece here is community empowerment. Example of that is when a group of business owners up in Fort Collins now formed earlier this summer the Northern Colorado-based Latino Chamber of Commerce.
Okay, good work. Thank you, Luis.
Boulder County is going to move forward with gun laws similar to the ones that got a nearby town sued.
They've grown to meet huge spikes in online shopping. Now Amazon facilities in Colorado are getting a visit from federal investigators.
A little cold front on the way for us tonight into tomorrow. That will drop off our temperatures, but the heat wears on. Details on that, and of course, a look ahead toward the weekend next.
The voice of baseball for generations is gone. We remember Vin Scully, who died at the age of 94.